everybody. Welcome to the Rock Solid Families podcast. This is Girl Power Half Hour with, I'm Jenna Halton, and this is...
I'm Bridget Price.
Yep, so I am the marketing administrative assistant at Rock Solid Families, and Bridget is our adolescent specialist. But Bridget, can you tell us a little bit of what we're going to be talking about today? Because we have fun,
Yes.
telling each other stories about this topic.
Yes,
so.
I think it'll be really relatable for you guys too. The topic we're discussing today is not giving in to our child's puppy dog eyes and pleas
and
when
whines.
We've all been there. So.
Yes. But before we dive a little deeper into that topic, first we want to thank our sponsors, Maxwell Construction, Casey's Outdoor Solutions, and Hoosier Ice House for making this podcast possible. So I know we have a few announcements. Bridget, if you want to talk about the Families Rock.
Sure. So we briefly talked about this last time we were on, but as it's getting closer, because we're only a couple weeks away from February, this is really soon, right around the corner. So we are going to be at Batesville Intermediate School every Tuesday in February, and from 6:30 to 8. Let me double check. I'm not telling you the wrong time.
6 to 8.
6 to 8.
Yep.
There'll be a free dinner offered from 6 to 6:30. Childcare is provided, and then that while childcare is happening after dinner, the parents will be learning some really cool topics. So the topics are navigating emotions at home, values-based parenting, healthy relationships, and then parenting in a tech-heavy world. This is for all age of parents. I believe that everyone can take something away from this.
Yes.
And what has been really special about this is the partnership that has come out of this. So we, Rock Solid Families, have partnered with Batesville Kiwanis to pull this whole family initiative together. So we have created well over 10 partners and agencies in Batesville who are helping us get the word out and personally inviting people. So if you're listening to this podcast and you've been seeing the flyers through social media or out and about in Batesville, that is because those businesses have stepped into this with us and are really helping to spread the word, because we know that it's going to be really impactful. So feel free to reach out to Jenna on our website or on the flyer. You can find that on social media as well, or call our office and we can get you signed up. That would be a good way to get enrolled. You don't have to sign up, however, it's highly encouraged, so then we know how much food to provide and what to expect for childcare. So.
Yep, and that you can pre-register at rocksolidfamilies.org under the events tab. So, and then another event that we have coming up is our second annual partnership banquet. So that is going to be on Thursday, March 13th from 6:30 to 8 at Higher Ground Conference and Event Center in West Harrison, Indiana. So that is an evening where we just celebrate all that God has done in our communities with our clients and our partners, and we celebrate our partners and their support that evening as well. So we will be talking a little bit about what we've been seeing with our clients and in our community just through our partnerships and sponsors and the power of God's Word, and then our visions for 2025 and where Rock Solid is going to be going with that.
Awesome. Yeah, and we're going to have a really fun guest speaker there.
Yes.
So I'm sure Linda and Merle will announce more about that. But definitely a fun guest speaker who's also connected to our previous announcement we just shared.
Yes. So if you can put the dots together, send us your wildest guess. But
yes.
So let's dive a little bit more into our topic for the day, now that our announcements are out of the way. So Bridget kind of already said that, this is pretty relatable for 99.999% of parents.
Yes.
I feel like when we were planning to talk about this, it's so there were so many stories we could share about our kids pleading and whining and begging and pushing our boundaries. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to provide some advice on how to navigate those situations, and then also a little bit of a challenge on how you can put our advice into action.
Yeah, and I feel like this is something that we are actively learning from what we're speaking to, because in all of these things we both were like, oh man, we could really grow into this.
Yeah,
and
we are by no means perfect in this area. We are still growing with every parent. So.
Yeah. I think something that came to mind while you were talking too was this could also just be for anyone who has kids in their life. Like if you are a neighbor, you don't have kids, but you invite kids over to your house, absolutely this applies to you.
Or if you watch children.
Yeah. If you watch kids, if you just have kids, teenagers in your life, this is for you as well.
Yes, absolutely. So Bridget, I know you were kind of telling me a little bit about the ways that your daughter uses your emotional heartstrings to kind of push her boundaries. So do you have any examples you'd want to share?
Yeah, so I feel like we have several examples that were just coming, and what I was telling Jenna is just kind of funny when thinking about examples is this is so ingrained into my daily life that I feel like it's happening and I'm not even realizing it, but these are the things that kind of come to mind that I can be like, yes, this is it. So the first thing that I thought about was, so my daughter's name is Berkeley, so I'm just throwing that out there. She is 4 years old, and one thing is every single night when we put her to bed, she knows how to use that to her advantage. Yes. So if my husband is home, for example, and I'm not home and he's putting her to bed, they have their routine. Our routine is going upstairs, brush your teeth, put on your pajamas, we'll pray for her, and hugs and kisses, go to sleep. And that's how it works for Garrett. But when I do it, it leads into 100 steps. My daughter will be like, oh, Mom, can you tickle my face and sing me a song? Oh, Mom, I have one more thing. And one thing that she has really been doing with both of us, but it pulls at my heartstrings even more, is just we'll be going and walking out the door, and she'll say, I have one more thing to tell you. Mom, can I get another stubby? And she's just grasping for straws of what's one more thing I can say? And once again, my husband is so good about being like, Berkeley, we already went through this. Anything else we'll talk about tomorrow. And I'm like, but what if it's important? What if I need to stay? So that is one easy thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, I have similar experiences at bedtime. And it's funny that, because my husband also, it's bedtime routine, no issue with him. He typically does it on the weekends, and I'll do it throughout the week. And, on the weekends, I'm like, okay, you have to go upstairs now, because if I do it, bedtime's going to take way longer. And, if you do it, he's just going to stay in bed and, be good to go. So that definitely is, I feel like a lot of kids do that at bedtime.
Yeah, and explain a little bit why you do it during the week and he does it on the weekends. Because I think that'll be important when we talk about our steps, how that is different for you guys.
Yes, it is different for us. So my husband works third shift, so I do bedtime during the week because he's either getting ready for work or has already left for work. And then on the weekends, he does it because it gives me a break.
Yeah.
So then we'll get kind of into how we navigate the discussion part of that later. But
yes.
Just in addition to
I'm sure there's more examples.
The bedtime is so I have a son. His name's Connor. He's 6, and we are really trying to get him to be a little more independent. And so he is now tasked with cleaning up all of his messes. And so last night is the perfect example. He had his pajamas in the hallway from that morning. And after school, I told him, hey, you need to pick up your pajamas and put them in your room. And so he literally picks them up, throws them through his door threshold, and they're just in his room on the floor. And I was like, buddy, go put them on your bed. And he's like, I'll do it later after we get home from church.
Yes.
And this is me being vulnerable right now and sharing where I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
I agreed and said, okay, as long as you remember to do it when we get back.
Yeah.
And luckily he did. But looking back at the situation, I should have held that. No, you need to do what I asked you to do the first time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's just little things like that are so, like Bridget said, ingrained in our everyday life. Where they might plead and try to negotiate and bargain, but we really need to hold that boundary.
Yeah, I think we said a little bit earlier too, the second you let him win in that of okay, yeah, we'll do it. That's where it starts. And I feel like that is, we'll get to this, but that's what we see a lot in our sessions, with teenagers specifically. They have learned how to do that, and they know how they can get their way and, bargain with you.
Yes.
Where now parents are how do I get back to where it's just like, this is what I'm saying, period. Like,
yeah.
But I believe, and we've been talking about this too, it starts at such a young age, like where, right, what we're saying, like we give in, and I think we give in because, like, for a lot of reasons, like maybe it feels like we're like, oh, I just need to like have a break for myself.
Yes.
Like, if you can watch one more episode, which we'll talk a little bit about what that's like, but like watch one more episode, then I can like scroll on my phone for like 5 more minutes,
right.
you know, which
yeah.
isn't great. We've talked about trying to change that too,
yes.
but
yes.
we have reasons why we try to justify it, but looking back now, it's probably always like not the best choice.
Correct, yeah.
So what are some other examples that you have? You mentioned, picking up toys.
Yes,
and
picking up toys, snack time, like, my 6-year-old can eat like a grown man some days. Like, I don't know where he puts it, because he's just like this itty-bitty thing.
Yeah.
And, like, he, like, will come home and he always gets an after-school snack. And so we have a rule, like, once you get your after-school snack, there's nothing else till dinner so that you actually eat. But he's always like, please, like, if I can just have a piece of candy, I'll split it with you, I'll share it with you, you can have one of my candies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, buddy, like, and that one I'm usually, like, very firm on, because, like, we all know, like, how dinner time goes.
Yes.
Like, when your kids don't eat, and then, 20 minutes after dinner, if that, they're already asking for a snack, and it's just,
and
food's
where
expensive.
I'm guilty with that, yes, like where I'm guilty with that, just the other day, like Berkeley wanted a snack, and it had way more in that, like, it was like something like Pringles, like similar to Pringles. And so rather than me pulling some out, putting it in a bowl, I just gave her the whole thing, which of course you know where that's gonna go. She ate the whole thing, or half of it. And I did that just so I would have peace while I was making dinner and she was entertained, And now we're showing up to the dinner table and she's not even hungry.
Yeah.
And so I feel like one thing, when I was thinking of an example too, is in the morning sometimes, I would not recommend this, but sometimes we will, or I will let Berkeley eat her breakfast on the couch while she's watching Daniel Tiger, for example. Yeah. And this is a perfect example of where I'm letting her call the shots in this, because now, ideally, that is not great. Like, I can give you 100 reasons on why that has been bad. We have 2 dogs. One of them, I think, is still a puppy. His name is Max. And we always are just like, oh, Max, Berkeley, just the other day this week, was sitting on the couch, had her plate with her granola bar on the table next to the couch, and here comes Max walking right over Berkeley, grabs the granola bar, and the whole time Berkeley's not paying attention because her eyes are locked on the TV. Yeah. But yes, like, I will tell Berkeley, like, hey, we're going to eat at the bar today, so I'll be sitting in here with you eating, and I know you're going to eat, and then we can go and you can watch an episode of Daniel Tiger before we leave. And she'll start pleading with me and like, oh, please, I promise I'll eat I'll eat while I watch Daniel Tiger. And we all know, like, as parents, that's not possible. Like, do we eat while we're watching a show? Like, and especially the attention span of a toddler, they're locked into the TV.
They get like a bite a minute, if that.
And then it's more work on me because I constantly have to pop around the corner and like, Berkeley, did you eat? Like, take a bite. But that all started, and now what we're dealing with is that constant, like, but please, I don't want to eat in here. And we're going to talk through, like, it's not now all hope is lost situation. Like,
Correct.
We can definitely reel her back in and have her eat like we have been today was doing that. But if I wouldn't have just, like, given in to her that one single time, it wouldn't be, like, it would be like, this is what I'm asking you to do, period. Like, we're not, like, back talking. I don't need your, like, response. This is what I'm saying, But, like, this is the wheel that we're talking about. It's so ingrained, and it starts at such a young age.
Yes, it really does. And I do have one more example that's kind of similar, like, that I planted the seed for, is I, like, wouldn't take... Not that I wouldn't. I hardly ever took my son to the grocery store, like, when he was younger. Just a personal preference. I personally like grocery shopping.
By yourself?
Yes, by myself. Get my Starbucks at Kroger.
Yes.
But I just felt like, I would, like, be too distracted, like, trying to get my stuff, but, like, make sure my eyes are on the cart and, like, all this stuff. So really within the past probably year or two, I started taking him with me on occasion. And at first it was like the first couple times I was like kind of nervous about it, and I was like, okay, buddy, if you behave at the grocery store and you're a good listener and you stay in the cart, we can pick out a Hot Wheels toy.
Yeah.
And so now, yes, and so now he goes with me more often because like, you know, he can walk next to me or ride the cart or whatever.
Right.
And now every time he's like, well, if we're going to the store, I get a toy, right? I'm like, no. Like,
yeah, we do the same thing.
Yeah, like you don't just get a toy because we go to the store.
Yeah.
And so, but that was on me. And then I feel like it's like a constant back and forth of him being like, well, please, just a Hot Wheels. And then it turns into like a Hot Wheels, which are like $1.50. Then it goes to like a Transformer, which are like $8. Yes. And now he's like, well, I'll just bring my own money. And I'm like, no, like we're not getting a toy. And so, yeah, it's similar to the whole like, eating in a different room thing.
Like we have all been there as moms where we see it coming up. So we're like purposely go the other way and walk down a different aisle. But those kids just know. Like they still find it. They still see it. Even when we're trying to walk around what it is.
Yeah, you can try to avoid it, but they know in their head, like, oh, the toys are over there, and we're not going that way. Where are we going?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Yes.
Bridget, I know that you have been kind of working on some boundary lessons for some of your adolescent clients. So when it comes to our advice of really just holding your boundaries and sticking to your word, if you say there's going to be a consequence, make sure you follow through with it. If you say no, no means no, whether that's no, you can't eat on the couch for breakfast, or no, we're not getting a toy. So do you have like any advice for other parents or grandparents, caregivers on how to navigate those situations and like really stick to those boundaries?
Yes, like practice while we're preaching right here.
Yes.
So when I started Rock Solid Families, Linda and Merle talk a lot about this book called Boundaries. It's written by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend, and it's just full of so much information. And it started with this original book called Boundaries, and now it's just like, if you look it up on Amazon, there's Boundaries for Marriage, Boundaries with Teens. Like, they've just created this huge thing out of this one book, and it's really helpful. So if you're hearing this and you're like, man, I wish I had more guidance on this, look into those books.
Yeah, you can get on Amazon.
Yes. And so in that book, they derive out like 10 laws of boundaries. But today, we're just going to be talking about 4 that apply to this. But truly, I would say, I feel like I'm a different person now since going through that and learning about these boundaries. I've talked before maybe that I feel like I am a recovery people pleaser.
Yes.
And it all started with these boundaries. So the first one that is so important is the law of sowing and reaping. And really the idea of that is actions have consequences.
Yes.
So when someone behaves irresponsibly, they need to experience the natural consequence. If we don't let our kids experience that consequence and we come in and rescue them, which was what we've been doing, then the consequences are removed and that whole codependency begins. Like where they're relying on us and it's just not healthy. And in the book they talk about like we are functioning at our healthiest self when we exhibit these boundaries. And we can have this another more conversation another time, but we also only let people in our lives who also have these boundaries, which that's a whole other thing. But a big thing that we are not doing by these previous examples is letting them have the consequence, you know. So when we were talking through this, you gave an example of like Connor he's in kindergarten now, so like making sure he's doing the lessons that's expected of him at school, and what happens in your house like when he does not do that at school.
Yeah, so we recently implemented this probably like within the past couple of weeks. So he knows the reading lesson, he just doesn't want to participate in class for whatever reason. So I reached out to his teacher and said, hey, send me the reading lesson. And we let him know that, hey, the days you don't do it in class, you have to make it up at home. So this week, he didn't do it on Monday. And I said, all right, if you continue not to do this throughout the week, then you can't go to your grandparents' house this Friday, which he loves going to his grandparents' house. So, and he looked at me, and it was Monday night. I reminded him, we were talking about, expectations for the next day. And I said, remember, do your reading lesson or there's no mammal and papaws. And he's like, what? So they're a reward now?
Yes, which I feel like I want to pause on that. Like, some of us have kids who are, like, literal, you know, like, they take what we say. Like, when you say, throw your clothes into the bedroom, he technically, in his eyes, he threw them in his bedroom. He
did,
you know?
he did. And maybe I should have been, like, more clear, like, take these and put them on your bed. But, so I explained to him that it's not that seeing his grandparents is a reward or not seeing them as a punishment, but it's more of, hey, you didn't do what you were supposed to the first time. You weren't respecting your teacher's authority. So now we have to take the time out of our family Friday fun time and do this because we need to make sure that he realizes that it is important. So that might look like not going, or it might look like us getting there an hour later because we had to stay home for an hour and catch up on 4 days worth of reading lessons.
And I know that you had said, like, you and your husband have planned a date night for Friday.
We did.
So we were talking about, like, what does that look like when we're trying to hold on to this boundary that we're setting, following through with the consequence, but man, like, we never go on dates, you know, that's something that we're trying to both, like, do a better job of. So what does that look like? Do you not go on your date even though, like, we know biblically we should be prioritizing our marriage? Or
I know. Yeah, it's I don't know. So so he has done so far. The rest of the week he has done his reading lessons. So I think what would happen is if he didn't do it tomorrow, then it would be like, okay, let's catch up on today's lesson, and we're just gonna be like, it's inconvenient for us. Like, you know, we might want to go to dinner, but now we have to push it back an hour because we have to spend the time working with him. But I think it's important that he realizes that, like, my husband and I are on this same, and we're in agreement that, like, this is what you're gonna do.
Right.
And, you know, it's 1 hour less that he has with his grandparents. So, I don't know. I think it's situational.
I think that's good, though. What I love about that, though, is you guys are still prioritizing your marriage while also holding on to the boundary that you're setting with him. Yeah.
And I'm sure, like, if his grandparents are watching, they're probably like, oh, poor baby, just let him go.
Yeah, we know. Yes, we have all been there before. Gosh. And I think we kind of talked about this a little bit, too, but let's say, like, you and your husband, like, came up with this plan and then you caved and gave into him. Like, that is, like, undermining your spouse. Like, why would that not be great?
Well, one, it's not great. Like, we just had, not related to the schoolwork situation, but just like a discipline situation, which not a schoolwork discipline, but a different discipline situation, with back talking. And I did undermine my husband, and I do feel bad. So public apology. But yeah, so it was really just a lack of communication on mine and his end. So, like, we have, like, this basic understanding of how things work, but then, like, I was in a bad mood and he was trying to discipline our son, and I was like, why are you guys arguing? And he was like, why are you not backing me up? And I was like, well, I felt like, you know, you didn't care. And he's like, well, I felt like you didn't care. And I'm like, okay, clearly there's, like, a lack of communication here. So.
And I think, like, I'm guilty of that 100 times. And I feel like there's several listeners, I think, who have also done that. And that will go into our tips that we have for you, to our action steps. But, Linda and Merle have also talked about in previous podcasts, like, just the importance of, like, not undermining your spouse, especially, like, how that affects your husband, for example.
Yes.
The next law I want to make sure we talk about is the law of proactivity. And the idea of that is just proactive people set boundaries before problems arise. Like, if we could be like, okay, raise your hand if you don't say anything, and you just wait until it happens, and now we're going to talk about it. Like, I wish that we could see everyone raise their hands, you know, because we have done that. But the idea of this is we are being intentional about, and just, like, envisioning and taking time to think about, like, what do we think could happen in this, you know, with our family. And I was thinking about this, like, when we don't do that and we're just passive and waiting for it to happen, I personally feel like we're creating that atmosphere for our family of just the unknown. And that feels like walking on eggshells to me, you know, and, like, unpredictability of, like, if my parents didn't tell me what they were okay and not okay with, and I'm just going to keep walking around and, I hope that this is okay.
Like, am I figure it out?
Am I going to take a step and now it's going to lead to me getting in trouble? And same way with your spouse. So the next one is just be proactive. And then the third is the law of activity. And really, this is very simple. The idea of this is to just follow through with it. Like, we're not going to spend all this time thinking of boundaries and not follow through. Boundaries require action and intentionality. So just do it. That one is all that there is for that one.
I had a family member on Facebook recently asking, like how other people would handle a situation that her 14-year-old son, I'm not going to go into details because I didn't get permission, but she was having an issue with her 14-year-old son, and she was basically saying, how would you handle this, like, as a parent? And I was preaching what I'm still trying to put into practice, but it's, we'll talk about, like, the research that's gone into, like, proving this is effective, but I commented, and I was like, set a boundary, keep it. Like, if you say that there's, like, a consequence, like, keep that consequence. And if, you're taking away a phone for 2 days and that's not working, maybe take it away for 4. Like, he's a teenager, like,
Merle always says, like, give them time to prove, or give them time to struggle a little bit, and to prove that they know what they need to do to change. Like, so many times we don't give them that time. We say, like, okay, we're taking it away and you can have it tomorrow. Well, have they really showed us that they've learned that lesson? Or are they kind of manipulating the situation where they're showing us for the time being, but not long enough where it's truly changing their to their core, the last one is the law of exposure, and this one's big too. Your boundaries must be visible and communicated to others. So if you and your spouse come up with these boundaries, you need to communicate this with your family. It's not going to be something that's just like me and my husband are coming up with. We are going to share that with our daughter, share that with our in-laws, for example, if they're watching our kids. So which leads us to, before we get to advice, one thing, like I mentioned, there's so many books that these authors have come up with, and just like people are buying into it. It's working, and but alongside with that, there's years of research done by Search Institute, who created the 40 Developmental Asset Framework. And one of those categories that they talk about of the importance that kids need this is boundaries and expectations. And they say a lot, like, the more likely your child has these assets, the more likely they will thrive, do well in school, make good choices, like have good friends. And then the opposite, if they don't have those, the more likely they are to not do well, like make bad choices, struggle with addiction potentially, like not thrive at school. So boundaries and expectations, there's so much research done that it's needed. Like our kids want that. So when we think about advice, like I think we've given them like lots of good things, and if not, no one's taking it away, we are. So this will help us. But what are some of the action steps that they should do?
Yeah, so we've kind of touched on this a little bit throughout our conversation, but really just having that open discussion with your spouse and your family, so that the whole family unit is aware of the boundaries and the expectations, whether it's between you and your spouse, or you and your children, or you and your in-laws, just so that everyone's on the same spot. And then another action step would be, and I know Merle and Linda talk about this one, it's just apologizing if you need to. So if you have a boundary that was not in place before, if you set a boundary that wasn't in place, you realize that you may have been going about things the wrong way. Sit down and apologize to your spouse or your children and say, hey, we haven't really been doing this right. Here's the new boundary. We're sorry for any confusion or lack of communication or distress that this has caused, and just kind of...
And I think, what is so good about that, when I hear so many times when I'm working with parents, and I feel that too, how do we get from this point to this point? When you don't have these boundaries, more times than not, we're living in reaction mode. We're not living in being proactive. And so how do we get from living in reaction, where we're constantly just responding to our kids, to getting to this other side? And that's really as simple as apologizing and having that conversation, like you said.
And so my third challenge would be to just sit down and have a family meeting. So discuss those boundaries, do any apologies that you might need to, and then once the expectations are set, ask if your children or your spouse has any questions about the boundaries that are being put into place. And then ask your kids, too, if they have any boundaries I think that they would want to meet or want the family to follow.
Yeah, and I feel like with teenagers, we were listening to this podcast yesterday about this idea, and the lady who was interviewing her teenage son.
Yeah, unprompted.
Yes, unprompted. He had no idea about these questions. And she said, what additional boundaries, or what are your favorite boundaries, and what additional boundaries do you feel like we should have? And of course, if this isn't something that is how your family has been made up to this point, I personally am not going to be surprised if middle schoolers and high schoolers do not volunteer additional boundaries.
Yes.
And they probably will be a little annoyed. We all know that response.
Yeah.
But it's still important, you know, and I think as they get used to it and your family dynamic and your values are changing to prioritizing this, I believe that they will probably give feedback and give suggestions. Like in that podcast, her son said he appreciated not having his phone in his room at bedtime. Yeah. Like, mic drop right there. Do we know any teenagers who do that? Like,
I know. And he also said he liked it that they didn't have him at the dinner table.
Yes. And that's just, like, if you're hearing this and you're like, whoa, my kids would never say that. That's probably a red flag that, like, are these part of your family, you know, or is that something you need to go back and apologize for? And my husband and I are guilty of this, too, especially, like, if a sports game is on, like, Purdue. Like, my husband might be, like, wanting to, like, oh, my gosh, I need to see this game. But really just prioritizing, and mine is, like, answering phone calls when people call during dinner time. But, like, prioritizing that time. We're like, we are not going to have our phones, for example. So, once again, we struggle with this, too. But we're here to tell you why it's so important. And then we have one more step.
Yeah, so after you have that discussion, you set the boundary, you apologize, you have that discussion. Really, our fourth challenge is to just move forward and start enforcing those boundaries. It is not easy when, I mean, I'm doing this, I feel like, every day. Like, I feel like I'm constantly being like, oh, we could be doing that better. And, you know, so it is, and our son's only 6. So, like, I could only imagine what it would be like with a child who's 12, and for the first time ever, they're like, I can't have my phone at dinner, or I can't have my... you know, Switch at dinner, like, so yeah, just really, like, stick to it, and that's, like, our biggest advice is, it might not be perfect, but sticking to that and moving forward with those boundaries will be helpful.
Yeah, I feel like if it's a red flag, if you are hearing what we're hearing from your child of, like, that rebuttal back, or complaining, like, big red flag that your child is running that show, you know, and that's how I feel like Merle and Linda, we've heard them say that too, like, your child is running the show, like, that, and it happens so easily, too, you know, like, wouldn't it be perfect if we were born and sin wasn't a thing, you know, like, that desire for our kids to want to do that, or wasn't even a thing, you know, but anyways, I feel like, is there anything else that you want to add in before we wrap up?
I don't think so.
I'm getting on the spot.
No,
I don't think I have anything either. Yeah, we hope that you're encouraged by this, and we hope that you can relate to what we're saying, too, and we just believe that this is so important, and we've seen how it really changes families' dynamic in our workspace and the families that we serve, so.
And our personal homes, too.
Yes.
Yes. All right, so as we close, we just want to once again thank our sponsors, Maxwell Construction, Casey's Outdoor Solutions, and Hoosier Ice House. Please let them know how much you appreciate them by supporting them and supporting us. But thanks again for listening to the podcast. Building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day.
Rock Solid Families wants to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions for sponsoring the Rock Solid Families podcast. Casey's has grown to be one of the largest and most unique garden centers and gift shops in the Cincinnati tri-state area. Whether you are looking to take on that next landscape project or simply add a little home decor to your house, Casey's has you covered. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Call them today at 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home. Rock Solid Families wants to thank Maxwell Construction for sponsoring the Rock Solid Families podcast. For over 30 years, Maxwell Construction has been a leader in turning dreams into realities, building schools, banks, restaurants, and many other commercial and public facilities. Maxwell Construction has made it their priority to not just build buildings, but to build into their community. So if you have any construction needs, call them at 812-537-2200.
Rock Solid Families would like to thank Hoosier Ice House for being a proud sponsor of the Rock Solid Families podcast. In the heart of historic Lawrenceburg, Indiana, the Ice House is at the corner of Vine and High Streets. The historic building evokes a feeling of comfort with spacious indoor and outdoor dining, a large bar, and comfortable dining areas. Large enough to host parties, yet intimate enough to feel like your favorite neighborhood restaurant. So thank you again for the Hoosier Ice House for sponsoring the Rock Solid Families podcast.